Hi everybody, it's chapter 3 time of the Mr Majeika and the Haunted Hotel. Twit has decided to have a bit of a fly around the room today and he's landed on his perch behind me, which is where he likes to sit most days. So, Hamish and the Romans, chapter 3. Hamish Bigmore was making a great nuisance of himself about the visit to Hadrian's Wall. Romans, he kept sneering. Who wants to hear about silly old Romans? What's supposed to be so clever about them? Well, said Jody, they invented a language called Latin, and they made coins, and they built big houses with hot baths and central heating. Latin? Laughed Hamish Bigmore. Coins? Hot baths? What's so clever about that? I bet I could make up a language, and as for hot baths and central heating, my mum and dad have got those at home. If you ask me, the Romans were just a lot of silly savages walking about in old sheets. They built Hadrian's Wall, said Jody. Hadrian's Wall? Laughed Hamish. Why, even my dad can build a wall. He's just put up one to keep the neighbour's dog out of our garden. I suppose in 100 years' time people will be coming on expeditions to see Mr Bigmore's wall. Don't be a fool, said Jody. You tell me one thing, said Hamish. Had the Romans got guns? Had they got televisions? Had they got computers? No, said Jody. Then that proves it, said Hamish. We're cleverer than they were, so what's the point of going to see their silly old wall? The day before the expedition, Class 3 performed a play about the Romans in Britain, with the rest of the school watching them. Mr Majeika had rehearsed them in their parts. Thomas and Pete were two Roman soldiers called Tiberius and Petrus, and there was a scene where they captured a British tribe and made them all Roman citizens. Hamish Bigmore was supposed to be one of the British tribe who got captured, but up to the last minute he refused to have anything to do with it. He just sat in a corner sulking while they rehearsed. Then suddenly he changed his mind. I bet he's up to something, said Pete. Sure enough, when they got to the scene where Tiberius and Petrus captured the British tribe, Hamish Bigmore ran onto the stage and pulled a toy machine gun from under his British costume. Stick 'em up, you guys, he roared. This is Hamishus Bigmorus, the only ancient Briton who knew anything about guns. Stick 'em up, or I'll plug you all full of lead. Thomas and Pete tried to carry on, but Melanie, who was playing a Roman lady, burst into tears and ran off stage. Mr Majeika had to make them begin it all again after Hamish Bigmore had been sent home. I'd like to punish Hamish by saying he can't come on the expedition to Hadrian's Wall, said Mr Majeika, but since he doesn't want to come anyway, it wouldn't really be a punishment. The next morning, the bus was waiting outside the school gates. Hamish didn't appear until it was time to go. Class 3 had hoped he wouldn't turn up at all, but just as the bus was starting, he walked cheerfully up to it, whistling brightly and carrying a piece of paper. So are you coming with us? Asked Mr Majeika. Oh, yes, said Hamish. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Good old Hadrian's Wall. On the bus, everyone, called Mr Potter, who was coming with them. Hamish found a seat just in front of Thomas and Pete. What's that bit of paper? Asked Thomas. None of your business, said Hamish. The bus got going, and Thomas and Pete, peering between the seats, saw Hamish unfold the paper. On it was written in straggly, spidery writing, To my star pupil, don't forget to get on the bus to Hadrian's Wall. You can help me get my revenge on them all. See you at the Green Banana. Signed, W.W. I can guess who it's from, whispered Thomas, but what does it mean about a green banana? Pete shook his head. I don't know, but I don't like the look of it. It was a very long journey to Hadrian's Wall, and the driver had to keep stopping for Melanie to be sick. When they got to the town for lunch, it took them ages to get going again because Pandora and her friends William and Claire and Kate had disappeared. Mr Majeika found them in a shop watching cartoons. And then Mr Potter disappeared too, and it turned out he'd got on the wrong bus with a completely different lot of children from another school. By the time they were on their way again, it was starting to get dark, and Mr Majeika was worried that they wouldn't reach Hadrian's Wall before night time, though he'd told the place where they were to stay that they'd arrive by tea time. They drove up onto the moors, and it became very foggy, and the bus had to go slower and slower because the driver couldn't see properly. Mr Majeika kept looking anxiously at his watch. "Oh dear," he said, "well, I suppose we'll get there in the end." Just at that moment the bus began to bump dreadfully and shake about from side to side. Then it stopped altogether. The driver got out. "Flat tyres," he said. "Oh dear," said Mr Majeika. "But you can mend it, can't you?" "It's not just one," said the driver. "Every single tyre's flat. There's a whole lot of drawing pins across the road. Someone's done it on purpose. I'll have to ring up a garage." "Bother," said Mr Majeika, "and everyone is very tired and hungry." "Couldn't you just magic us up some food, Mr Magic?" said Pandora. Mr Majeika shook his head. "Certainly not. You know I never use magic if I can possibly help it." "There's no need to worry," said Hamish Bigmore, who'd been peering through the window. "We've broken down just outside a hotel." "A hotel?" said Mr Majeika. "That will be frightfully expensive." "Oh, I shouldn't think so," said Hamish. "Looks pretty cheap. It's called the Green Banana." So, the Green Banana has appeared right outside where the drawing pins have made the tyres go flat on the coach. I wonder. Here's to chapter 4 for tomorrow. That's called The Green Banana. See you all tomorrow.